Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'asham Yahweh Shai, Ba'asham Recha Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And as I was going through a couple of these headlines, you know, there are a few things going on right now. There's the whole supposed talks. All right, I'm pretty sure now it's official apparently that they're having talks right between the U.S. and Iran, and obviously the narratives that's being painted from the Western media is not 100% accurate, but that's no surprise, or it shouldn't be a surprise to any of us, right? So what we're seeing is, both sides coming with different demands, but hey, as I always say, man, it's good to hear what they say, but really you got to look at what they do, and ultimately what is their goal, right? Who seeks to benefit from what's going on with this whole energy crisis, and ultimately what is their goal? See, so their goal is to keep this chaos going because it is through chaos that they are able to achieve change, all right? Change in the form of a new world order. So let's go through a few of these here. As gas prices are going up, still going up, you see here that California is getting hit pretty hard, right? So it says Chevron warns California facing historical fuel crisis as diesel hits record $7. All right, and now, if this continues to go on, the consumers are going to start to feel the actual effects of this from different sources, right? Once again, not just from going to the gas station, but from different sources that are now putting surcharges on services and products because they have to offload that hit that they're taking some way, somehow. Okay, and eventually it gets passed on. It's like when you play Uno and somebody puts a draw 2, and then the next person says, well, I got 1 too, so now the next person got a draw 4. Then the next person says, oh, you know what, I'm gonna drop a +4. You know what I'm saying? Now you gotta draw 8. And who does it land on? The consumers. The consumers is that player that doesn't have up a draw 2 or nothing. So now you get hit with a +16, draw 16. You're like, there ain't even 16 cards left in the deck. But that's what they're doing. They're passing on that expense eventually to hit your pockets. So it says here, I'm going to read just a little bit of this, but it says the world's biggest energy execs are currently at the annual CERAWeek conclave in Houston, where understandably they are dropping bulletin bombs reeking of fire and brimstone and warning the already critical oil/gas situation will only get worse if the pre-war status quo isn't restored. Well, you're way past that. That ship is already sailed. And then whatever damages have been done, it's going to take a long time, if even it can be repaired. And that's if the war was to stop today, right now. Which incidentally will be great for their bottom lines until the world is tipped into a recession. And that's the thing, right? It's like they what they're doing is they keep on provoking more and more and more. And that's their lever now, right? That's their lever for chaos. Say one thing, do another thing, right? You've got the so-called enemy being, say, Iran, in a state where they're acting, to survive, but to an extent, it's still reacting to your actions, right? So they're like, well, you bombed us, so we're doing this. And if you continue to do this, then we'll continue to do that. Well, once again, from the perspective, if you're in the seat of somebody who is manufacturing this chaos because it's needful for your agenda, then you don't need to have, your physical hands on the minds of these people, as long as you can still control them, right? And there's a saying, anybody who can make you angry is your master, right? Roughly paraphrasing. Basically, they can get you to do something that you in your right mind wouldn't do. And that's how they're continuing to orchestrate and engineer this crisis because they're like, oh, if we poke the bear, it's gonna growl or it's gonna strike. And the more it strikes, the more of an effect that gives us. So we'll just keep poking the bear, and then, to really, if we want to intensify things, we'll just do some more underhanded stuff, you know. So there's a story they tell on the world stage, and then there's what really goes on behind the scenes. So it says here, I think there's a bit more on here. All right, it says, which incidentally will be great for their bottom lines until the world is tipped into a recession. Not just the US, the world. Take oil giant Chevron, which warned that California is careening toward an energy crisis because of the Iran war, which will likely be resolved soon. Yeah, okay. And that the company may quit refining oil in the state unless officials roll back taxes and regulations. And that's a problem because you can't use that raw oil. You have to refine it so it can be in a state that can be used for the different more modern situations or cases in which we use it for. All right, so I'm going to jump around in here a bit. California is highly exposed to disruption rippling across commodity markets because it imports about 20% of its refined fuel from Asia. And Asia is heavily affected. I did a lesson on this not too long ago, that some of these countries, it's not that they themselves are being affected like directly because oil can't leave the strait. It's not the oil, it's the other nations, the Asian countries that depend on that oil to manufacture certain things that these countries actually then use or need. So that it's transitive. All right, it's like a transitive dependency, and that's how it's affecting them. But then similarly, you're seeing here, right, about 20% of its refined fuels they get it from Asia, that is California. But as extensively discussed here, oil product shipments from China, South Korea, Singapore, and elsewhere are at risk of slowing significantly as Iran blocks the Strait of Hormuz, leaving Asian nations struggling to meet their own demand at home, let alone export to California. And that's the thing, right? When something starts to be scarce, the manufacturer has to think of domestic, preparations first before thinking of anything international. Bruh, like if we don't have energy or we don't have enough energy to take care of ourselves, why would we be concerned about shipping or exporting what little we do have here? And that's going to be very, very hard on, the world, because the world needs energy. All right. Chevron's oil refinery head Andy Wold said the potential for fuel shortages in California is his worst fear. We have refineries in Asia that are having to cut crude, and so they're going to make less products. Wold said in an interview Tuesday, what if San Francisco doesn't have the jet fuel it needs? Or Los Angeles, or maybe gasoline? And as if to confirm his warning, just hours later, the price of California diesel hit a record high, just above $7 per gallon. So I'm pretty sure by now I don't need to explain what the ripple effects of diesel prices hitting, those records high, because what that leads to, right? The different factories, the trucks and the means of transportation that relies on diesel that once again will be passed on to companies, and they're going to pass it on to you, and you're not going to like that. One example, speaking of what I just mentioned, is the U.S. Postal Service, right? U.S. Postal Service plans 8% fuel surcharge as Iran war raises transport costs. Okay, so it says here the U.S. Postal Service is seeking permission to impose a fuel surcharge on parcel products for the first time ever to cover soaring transportation costs for gasoline and diesel fuel, which have jumped more than 30% since the invasion of Iran by the United States and Israel nearly a month ago. And just like that, it's already been about, a month? since they started that. And now they're saying they're getting these if they don't already have them, those troops that they sent in place. And Iran is like, yo, we're ready. You know, what are you waiting for? Come on over to this island, and we'll show you what we'll give you a little taste of Iranian style war. That's what they're saying. And you know that's going to be a whole nother major escalation, and that's how these things go, right? It's like just as it seems like something is dying down, boom, you know, the next thing hits and is much bigger than the first. So it says parcel shipments would be charged at 8% fee, at an 8% fee, on top of their regular transportation charge if the fee is approved. Who's gonna pay for that? The quasi-private agency on Wednesday saw permission from the Postal Regulatory Commission for a time-limited price adjustment on parcel shipments because of rapidly changing market prices for fuel. Don't be fooled if this continues. Usually that the use of time-limited, temporary, you know, a short, blah, 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 is something that, you know, it's commonly thrown out there not to spark panic or major concerns. That's why they use phrases like that. That's why they give certain timelines that they know in actuality is not really the case. Okay, it's like when somebody's been waiting for you for a long time and you tell them, oh yeah, I'm 10 minutes away, but really you like 20 minutes away. Right? Oh yeah, I'm actually halfway there and you just now leaving the house. So it says here, where we at with it? It would be the first time in history that the Postal Service has applied a fuel fee, a common practice with private carriers like DHL, FedEx, and UPS. And now you're going to be paying that if it's approved. The Postal Service also said that the temporary surcharge would help its transition to a permanent mechanism for imposing surcharges on competitive products. See that? To support its universal service obligation in a more financially sustainable way. So everybody's getting hit. I'm going to jump down here to this part right here. It says nearly all USPS delivery vans run on what? Gasoline. So no, it's not just your trucks. So this is something that probably wasn't the first thing that came to people's minds, that your cost for delivery is going to go up because USPS delivery vans, guess what they run on? It's not air, right? So now how you're starting to see the connection, right? Oh, diesel went up. Now you're paying more for a shipment. What does that mean? When you go to order something, say for example, Amazon, you're going to see shipping and handling going up because Amazon is going to say, well, how are we going to get the product from our warehouse to you? Oh, right. Transportation. Well, that costs more. And if it costs us more, guess who's paying for that? You, buddy. It's your product. You're the one who's trying to order it. And if you're the one who's trying to order it on our website, we're not paying for that extra surcharge for you. You're going to pay it for yourself. And if you don't like it, don't order it. But you are going to order it because you need it. So now you're wondering, why is it that things have become so expensive on that? On Amazon, you might see the thing listed as $13.99 and wonder why your total charge on your card was $20. Yeah, because of that shipping and handling that just like went up. You see, so it's all interconnected, and it all lands on you. Okay, it lands on you because those companies, yeah, you are their consumers. But they don't necessarily, they don't need to pay you for your products. You pay them for their products. Okay? So they can dictate to an extent how much you're going to be paying. And you're going to pay it. So nearly all USPS delivery vans run on gasoline, which has jumped about $1 in price to nearly $4 per gallon in less than a month. The organization also uses diesel fuel for large trucks that move mail and packages long distances to distribution centers. So when it comes to these kinds of things, You hear, oh, $1, right? You hear this 7%, this percent. And people are so accustomed to thinking, oh, 1%, that's not that much. $1, oh, no, no. You have to view it proportionally. If a company like USPS, right, has to pay $1 more for each gallon of gas, they don't drive the same way you do. You may leave your house, I don't know, maybe 5 times in a week to go to work. Maybe if that's all you do, you drive to go to work, you come back home. And every so often, maybe 7 times, right? Maybe 8 times. Who knows? Maybe it's a light week, maybe it's a heavy week. They're constantly driving. You go from destination A, point A, to point B, and then you park. And then you come back to point A. They go to point A, B, point C, point D, because they're delivering. That means they gotta drive, stop the car, get out, go deliver the meal, come back, start the engine again, drive some more. So if they're in a place where there's a lot of red lights, there's a lot of stop signs, there's a lot of whatever it is, it's costing them more because they're driving more. Okay, they're using more fuel. So even if it's a little bit they have to pay, it compounds. Okay, more than you would think. So when you see numbers and they look small, the impact is greater than you think. And if it's happening with USPS, it's not going to be only USPS, because guess what? USPS delivery vans are not the only things that use gasoline. Bus fares are going to go up. Train, all these things. That's, once again, in a prolonged situation like this, that's when you start to feel the pains in places you didn't even think you would feel pain. And all of it is coming where? Where, when the bus fare goes up, who is that extra amount going to be passed on to? You. USPS, you. Amazon, you. Grocery, you. Deliveries, you. Everything, you. So as where this company, this factory is like, you know what? Even restaurants, they're like, yeah, I'm not paying for this. We're just gonna, increase the price to offset it. That hits you. But you, for them, it's just, okay, we are offloading it to customers. That's it. For you, it's like, I'm getting an increase from here. I'm getting an increase from here. I'm getting an increase from there and there and there. And you get it. You get it. You get it. You all get it. And your paycheck is not getting it. No merc. It's an inside joke. But yeah, so you can see that things are getting pretty bad out here, pretty bad. Well, I got one more on here. This is, just an update on the whole TSA situation. Now, they have ICE agents deployed over there. But one thing I wanted to mention, right, in addition to this, it says more than 450 TSA agents have quit during DHS shutdown. And, I mean, it's just going into what? Over a month? Day 38. Imagine that. Day 38. It says more than 458 TSA workers or officers quit, and thousands have called out sick from work because they are not able to afford gas, childcare, food, or rent. Really imagine this. People who actually do have work are paying high prices for gas and complaining. People that have a job that's actually paying them. How much more for you? Think about how you must feel if you're a TSA worker to say, wait a minute, I am not getting paid, but I have to pay for gas to drive or take an Uber or whatever means of transportation to get my ass over there to work without getting paid, and then use, if I drive, more gas to get back home. Excuse me? That the math is not mathing. That really sounds more like disrespect. So I did see something. Now, it doesn't mention it in this article, but I was reading it yesterday about how now they're warning that, hey, if this continues on, they're going to need to actually start closing down airports, because it's just for security. Like you can't, it can't function without these TSA workers. Yeah, you got ICE agents in there helping out, but it's not the same because they're not trained in the exact manner that or TSA workers are. That's why there's a section for TSA workers. If there was not, they would have combined TSA and ICE into one. So once again, there's a lot going on. Now, the scriptures say, 2 Ezra 15, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. So they're telling you, look, you certain airports, you better start planning 5 hours ahead. And then you get there and find out that probably wasn't even enough. Because you're not the only one planning 5 hours ahead. Missing flights. Well, this is the book of Ezekiel chapter 7, verse 6. An end is come, the end is come. It watcheth for thee, behold, it is come. Okay? And these are the signs of the end. These are the beginning of sorrows. And as we've been telling you, it's going to escalate. It's going to escalate. Don't be deceived. That's why the scriptures say we walk by faith, not by sight. Things may look one way today, but tomorrow it may not be the same. So we go based off of what we know, right? Through the scriptures, through the Holy Spirit, through prophecy. And that helps, that gives us that stability of mind concerning the chaos and turmoil that's going on in the world right now. So with that, I'm going to end it here. Lord willing, that was edifying and informative to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.